It is summer in Florida, so all the fans are going, so if it is loud, I apologize in advance. But today we have an 8V Audi S3, and it is in today for a minor to major correction. We have about 5 days with this thing, so we need to get started right away. The only problem is that I am boxed in by an E46 as well as an R32 Golf. So to kind of dodge the Florida heat for my benefit, as well as I can't really get this thing out right now, we're going to go ahead and rinseless wash the paint, and then at the very end of the week we'll get the wheels off of this because we are going to be ceramic coating the wheels anyways, so kind of works out. Yeah, let's get started. So this 8V Audi S3 is a 2016, and I've been going back and forth trying to figure out whether or not it's phantom black or brilliant black, and obviously based on production numbers and VIN numbers it's got to be brilliant black, but the way the paint just acts is just like phantom black, which is really cool because phantom black from Audi is not like any normal black there is. It almost has like a sheen pearl to it with a color change. Like this one here almost has like a sheen or a pearl with the gloss and goes kind of purpley. It's really cool. So either way, yeah, this Audi is in for a major correction. I know I said minor to major, but it ended up turning into a major correction real quick just because of the condition of the paint. And it also ended up taking a lot longer of a time, and then later on in the video we ended up actually going and delivering this car about 2 hours south. It's a whole ordeal, and you guys will see that. But as of right now, we're going to be using some Optimum no rinse in order to get this thing nice and clean. Very rarely do I like to use any kind of rinseless wash to prep for paint correction, but with the condition this car was in, it wasn't that dirty actually, and I was trapped and it was about to rain and it's hot. So yeah, let's get this thing nice and clean, then we can do a clay bar and get going. Now that we've pretty much finished up decontaminating the S3, we need to go ahead and blow out water from all the little nitty-gritty areas. And then we should be good to tape it up, do a paint inspection with the ye old good stain grip. first thing we should cover is we're not chasing perfection here, obviously, but this thing is in rough shape. From the outside, like over here in the shade and stuff, like when we stand aside, like over here, car looks fantastic. It looks so beautiful and gorgeous until you start getting into the nitty-gritty areas, and even with some basic lighting, you get something like this. So yeah, car has most definitely seen better days, but that's why it's here. Good news is it's all fixable to a degree, and I'm not trying to get it to 100%, but maybe around the 80-85% corrected mark is kind of what I'm aiming for here. And then we'll get it coated, and it'll look gorgeous. To the next day, and I've been doing a couple of test spots here just to see what combination of what's gonna be good. Of course, as you can see, there is still some micro marring, but that's because we need to follow up with some perfect finish so we can get rid of all of that and make it nice and crystal clear. Even though the top of the doors works really good with using some cut max, some weaker stuff with a more aggressive pad. It looks like when I got to the harder places, yeah, that stuff didn't touch it at all whatsoever. So I swapped back to the Stoner's compound. And when you see this, obviously it's going to look clouded up and hazed up. That's because we're doing some aggressive cutting. We're using a very aggressive product. Whether you're using wool or microfiber pads, you're going to get a little bit of micro marring or some sort of haziness. And that's what we have here. So the areas of center mass, so like the doors, the hood, stuff like that you could use a 3 or 5 inch pad, those were really beat up, and that's why we depended on a very serious compound as well as pad combination. Whenever I got closer to the edges and I depended on my 1 inch polisher, I kind of backed it off a little bit and I went towards a yellow wool pad from Rupes. It's like a medium polishing wool pad sort of ordeal. I didn't want to be as aggressive, mostly because the edges were not as bad as the center mass areas, obviously because they don't see as much entertainment. Also, whenever it comes to the refining stage, this helps out a lot with the edges, mostly because it's a lot harder to get really close and up in there to refine all the haziness that comes from the heavy cutting if you were to do that. After so many times of doing 3-step corrections on this channel, I figured, you know what, the first stage of the 3-stage correction is usually me just making the paint insanely cloudy, and it doesn't look like anything until I get to the second stage and refine a little bit of that. So I've made the executive decision to kind of move to the second stage in the footage, so that way we can really see some solid befores and afters. The thing about this paint is that it's a little softer than average for Audi paint, which means that it cuts a lot easier, especially using a very aggressive compound such as Stoner's. It really left a hazy mess. So after using some pads and some different products and stuff, trying to figure out what is going to be the best second step in this, I found out using a Meguiar's microfiber polishing pad paired with Sonak's cut and finish was a perfect match. Cut and finish from Sonax is a one-step process, and a lot of people use it for that, but I used it in this step and actually took away majority, I would say about 90% of the damage that was inflicted from the compound. It did leave some very minor micro-marring, but that is just enough for Sonak's perfect finish to come in at the very end, to not just be a final step and make it super glossy, but to get rid of the rest of that damage.
say throughout the refining process, I really realized how good Meguiar's polishing pads are, the microfiber polishing pads. I realized how amazing they are, especially as a second out of 3 steps in a process like this. Using a product that's not so crazy aggressive, but also does some refining like cut and finish from Sonax, it really was an awesome second step. The microfiber polishing pads are actually pretty aggressive, especially when you compare it to something like a Rupes yellow pad. I was just really surprised every single time I put my towel on that paint and really wiped it away and saw how much of the damage it got rid of.
gonna speak with the GoPro right now because it's in my hand, but this is coming out phenomenally just for being on the second stage of 3, and I am just so overly excited that it is insane. Like, look at this. You can't tell me that this doesn't look just fantastic. And now imagine us having to go back through with a yellow Rupes pad and some Sonak's Perfect Finish and making this even more insanely glossy. Like, it's phenomenal. And then just think about what it's gonna look like when it's coated. Black cars are some of the most difficult and annoying things to polish on the planet, but they do come out looking like some of the cleanest cars you've ever seen. Even though the hood was definitely a challenge, I would have to say the trunk top as well as the trunk face was just hard. It was probably one of the most hardest spots I've ever dealt with, just because the damage was so stacked on top that I had to do so much cutting, and it was just such a hazed mess that I had to spend a lot of extra time refining it as well. It's not that we were going to jeopardize the clear coat in any way from all the cutting we did, it was just the amount of damage and the amount of cutting we had to do and the amount of micro mining that we got from the cutting process and trying to gauge if I ended up getting these things. It was a process of, like, you know, cutting and then refining, cutting and refining until finally I was satisfied and I could see through the paint and the damages were gone. Very, very difficult little thing there. I haven't had a battle like that in a while. After doing some test spots with some Sonak's Perfect Finish and a Rupes yellow pad, it really makes me appreciate using Perfect Finish. It is such a good product, man. The finishing you get from it is just unlike anything else I've ever tried. Granted, I've ordered a bunch of different polishes and compounds from different companies like Coach Chemi, whatever the heck it's called, and some other companies just to get out of my comfort zone and try a couple things. But when I use Perfect Finish like this, it really makes me say, like, why would I try anything else? Like, this works fantastic, like, seriously. But I do have to branch out a little bit from my comfort zone, that's definitely for sure. What a nightmare of a front bumper, no doubt. Like, this thing was completely beaten up. It had rock shatter all over it, and God forbid would I ever say that it's probably been resprayed. It really was just a question of, do I even dare touch it? And of course I'm going to touch it. I figured I would not go through the entire cutting process on the front bumper. It was just going to be me going through with Perfect Finish to give it that excess gloss. And surprisingly enough, that actually did pretty good. I had no faith whatsoever in this front bumper and it looking any way, shape, or form nice.
nice, but being able to use perfect finish in the yellow pad and getting it to gloss was actually pretty easy, and it really did cover up a lot of the damage. You know, I've said it before in the past to you guys, whenever I can't get something completely fixed or make it look nice, I always try to make it so glossy that you can't really see the blemishes, and that definitely spoke in volumes with this front bumper. The entire car is now completely cut, polished, and refined, and it looks amazing. The only things I have to do right now are the hood as well as the front bumper cover. And then I'm going to go around and do some 1-inch areas, like near the door handles, some little hand polishing. I will say before we start the hood, we are going to be chasing some scratches. Now, this thing has definitely seen better days, so we're not going to be able to get it to 100%, but I know about 4 or 5 scratches somewhere on this hood are at a depth to where I can go ahead and get it out pretty easily. Now, we're going to be using a blue Adams Polishes cutting pad on the 1-inch polisher to chase those scratches, and we're going to be using a much less aggressive compound, so that way we don't have to add some sort of third step in between to refine it and all that stuff. No, we're not doing that.
that main off.
I mean, technically, isn't ours after the intercooler, or is that just the temp sensor?
That's the temp sensor.
That's why it's very important to keep your pad clean when you're doing trim work, because this right here is residue. And this right here, this residue, you do not want to continuously be polishing on it because it's going to embed swirls and little crow's feet and stuff.
Front grille was definitely a piece of work. It was definitely decayed and eaten away by the sun. I went ahead and finger polished the very top part of it and then also coated it, and it turned out phenomenal, so we ended up fixing that.
So when it comes to the front grille, obviously in order to restore it, you can either buy a new one and put it in, but who really wants to do that? I have extra time on my hands, so I went ahead and hand polished one of the pieces of the trim, and it came out great. That's one way to restore plastic trim if it's not too far gone, is you're able to take a mildly aggressive polish, finger polish it, and it should come back to somewhat of an OEM black finish, to which then you can go ahead and coat it and keep it that nice clean color. It's the sun that really destroys any kind of black plastic trim, and if you just go over with a compound, it refinishes the pores on that plastic, and then once you coat it, it will UV protected. So we're gonna go ahead and smash out the front grille here. As you guys just saw, did a fantastic change. Like, it was an awesome change. And then we will hit the back emblem with some water spot remover, and we're good to coat.
If you're really into Volkswagen Audi kind of stuff, especially like this with the MQB platform, the Mark 7 GTIs, Golf Rs like mine, Audi S3s, 8Vs, all that stuff, you can change these grills to like a honeycomb platform from an aftermarket source, or you can actually even take these pre-facelift 8Vs and also do like the facelift front grille and stuff like that. And although there are plans in the future for the owner to do that, I wanted the grill to look good, so that way in case he wants to put it off for a while, the grill still looks nice and presentable. prepping a car for coating is probably one of the more important things to do, especially whenever you have done polishing. You want to get all that sort of grease off the paint, all of that oil off the paint. And I always start with blowing off the car just to get rid of any kind of dust, and then I go to an isopropyl alcohol spray mixture. Now, I've recently started using isopropyl alcohol mixed with distilled water. So for example, before I put a coating on, I wipe it down with a 50-50 mixture, but every step of the process before that, it's more or less like a 35% isopropyl mixture with distilled water. And I've actually learned that not only is that cost effective, but it's really good. I actually really enjoy it more than even using carpro eraser, which I've been using for like 3+ years religiously. some crystal serum light on the paints. Time to apply 2 coats of XOV4 as a topper to the original coating itself. G-Technics just got it figured out, man. I've been saying it almost every video because this is like the #1 product I use other than Drexler sometimes. It's just solid. It is the best acting coating you can get on a consumer level, I personally believe. And hopefully one day I can reach out to G-Technic or go to Georgia, I think it is, and do their class. I just would love to be able to have the opportunity to use G-Technic's Crystal Serum Ultra one day. That is my ultimate goal, and one day here on this YouTube channel you will see me graduate to that.
Sun's coming out, so you might think I continued working while it was raining and that's why I'm soaked. Actually, no, it's because this is actually all sweat. This is what detailing's like in Florida. This is why I bit the bullet a year ago and got a shop, because I'd be doing this in a driveway rather than being able to come back into my shop where it's nice and like 20 degrees cooler.
Now that the wheels are nice and clean and coated with some Gyeon's Q2 Rim, I went ahead and did the same exact thing to the calipers and got them coated, and now we gotta put the wheels back on and get them torqued down. From there, I went ahead and went to the exhaust tips and got them polished by hand with some Mother's aluminum mag polish, and then went ahead and coated them with the same exact thing. I've used quite a few different wheel coatings, and I just like Gyeon's Q2 Rim because it's very simple and I know it lasts for a good amount of time, like upwards of 2-3 years or so. It gives you everything you would expect from a ceramic coating, right? So it makes it really glossy, it gives it the hydrophobicity. When brake dust comes out of the brake pads, it just can't settle on the wheels, so most of the time it blows away. It really is a good product, and if you don't have your wheels coated, go ahead and do it. I mean, in comparison to what a ceramic coating on paint costs, it's really not that expensive, and it is a massive benefit.
So the S3 is pretty much ready to go. It has been a long haul with this vehicle, no doubt. It has been a treacherous week, 8 days, give or take, getting this thing nice and perfected to the best of my abilities. It's not in amazing shape, but it is in immaculate better shape than, compared to what it was before. I shouldn't say immaculate, but it's pretty dang near immaculate. It's beautiful. So there is a little situation though. The owner of this vehicle, who's like a dear family member of mine, lives in Northport, Florida, which is about an hour and a half away from where I'm at right now. So what we need to do at this point is get everything nice, ready to go. And in about 2 hours, myself and Jeff with the red GTI, we're gonna be driving down there and getting this car delivered to him, getting some after footage of him and his reaction and stuff like that. And then Jeff bring me all the way back up here. Thank you, Jeff, so much. And we should be good to go.
What'd you think?
Holy shit, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, it looks really good. I'm really happy with it. Really good. I'm most happy that your grill was able to be restored, because that was getting rough.
I really gotta get better at holding the camera whenever I'm talking to someone instead of it going all over the place. But other than that, guys, that brings us to the end of this detail. What a massive job that just ended up going so smoothly. Honestly, we did get like 3 extra days involved in here, 4 extra days or so, just because of the amount of work that went into it, but it was all worth it. So as you're looking at the after footage and you made it this far, please leave a like on the video if you liked it. It seems like you did if you made it here. And if you like car detailing content or cars just in general, go ahead and press subscribe, and if you ring that bell, you know every single time I upload. Other than that, guys, I will leave you with the rest of the footage, and I will see you all in the next one.